Thought that it's just come up, or it's been going on for, no, it just came up. This is Engelbert. You want to talk about a little, something that just briefly came into your mind?
I was just going to tell you off mic because I didn't want to put it on mic.
Okay, all right. All right, we're going to go off mic for a moment, and we're going to have Lou Christie's song.
Yeah, I wanted to make mention of something. Out of a lot of the hit records that we made with the Four Seasons, because I know you really like to know a little bit about the Four Seasons, about how we made those records. When I first started making the records with the Seasons, we started where we would sit around the piano, we put them together. Gaudio was very, very instrumental in his concept about what he thought the Four Seasons should be. And Bob Crew, being the producer, Bob Crew gave us the ability for us to think outside the box, because we never had the imagination that Bob Crew had. He taught us how to think to make hit records.
Would you consider like Bob Crew your mentor?
He was our mentor because he already had hit records. Here we were coming in, and he was really taking us to school. So when we made some of these records, we made these records. I can't say that in the beginning, when we started to make the records, where I had anything more important to do with the records than anybody else, because there were really six of us. There was myself, there was Bob Gaudio, Bob Crew, Frankie Valli, Sandy Linzer, and Denny Randall. Now, sometimes Gaudio didn't have the song, but Sandy and Denny had the song. Sometimes they didn't have the concept, I had the concept. Sometimes all of us got together and we all collectively made the records. Some of them specifically I was involved more so than others, but writing the arrangements, somebody had to write it out. And my education from working on Four Seasons records made it possible for me to eventually learn how to make records for everybody.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about the nightly concerts at the State Diner, what that was like?
Well, all the bands that were working in New Jersey, back in the 50s, pretty much every street had a gin mill on it that had entertainment. It was just a thing to do. And there must have been about 50 or 60 bands that worked in and around the New Jersey area. And after we finished work at 2 o'clock, we'd all meet at the State Diner. And we'd hang out at the State Diner, and then after we would have something to eat, we'd go outside and we'd sing. And Frankie would be right in there with us. And we'd start to sing, and we'd have all these different people from different groups, and he'd go, "Charlie, give them the notes, give them the parts." And if Nicky was around, then Nicky would come and he'd give the parts out. But it was fun because we used to do these sort of like doo-wop sessions in the street. And sometimes it would last a couple hours. But it was fun, and that's one of the things that we did as kids.
Teddy, I just want to
Tom,
say
yes,
something.
hi, Tom.
Something just popped in my head while Charlie was talking about that. And one of Charlie's big band breaks came when he had the opportunity to write an arrangement for a group that was going into the Latin Quarter. And this is where the State Diner comes in. What were you with, Charlie, Mikey Petrillo?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie, take over.
Well, there was a group called the Highlands, and they were booked to go into the Latin Quarter. Now, the Latin Quarter was a big club in New York at one point, and they needed arrangements written. So they knew that I wrote the arrangements for the Victorians, so they asked me if I would write the arrangements for them. So I wrote 6 or 7 of the arrangements it was 3 trumpets, 2 trombones, 4 saxes, and they had the rhythm section. So I basically had to write the sweetening. And one of the musicians that came to run down the arrangements was Mike Petrillo. Mike Petrillo became a very successful policeman. In fact, there's even a character that plays in the Jersey Boys. He became a very successful policeman, but he was also the one who wrote the arrangements for Bob Crew when I was out of town. And it got to the point where he says, I can't do these anymore, you got to get Charlie. And Petrillo was really the one that got me back writing arrangements for them when I came back into town. And Frankie says, yeah, let's get Charlie.
Well, but you didn't finish that neat little thing that I enjoyed, and that was, Charlie was sitting with Mikey Petrillo in the State Diner, and Charlie said, well, yeah, I wrote all the arrangements, but I don't want to turn them in until we can try them out. And Mikey Petrillo says, all right, let's go outside and get the guys singing in the street. They're all musicians anyway. And that was Charlie's first big band. Am I
Yeah,
on the money, right?
yeah.
So much great history here.
We put the band, we put the rehearsal band just from the guys who were doing the local gigs in Jersey.
You know, you can read all about this in Charlie's new book, Another Season. As a matter of fact, Charlie, they can pre-order the book right now. It'll be out in a few weeks.
Oh,
right?
let's give
Yeah.
information on how to get the book. That's important.
It's the big coloring book company in St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
St. Louis, am I right, St. Louis?
Well,
Ken?
it's on the back of the book.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
It's on the back of the book here.
You got a nice picture of the book.
We just cared about writing it, not where it was.
It's being published by really big coloring books, and we've been doing business with this company for a couple of years, and they put books out, and we spoke to them about putting a book out, and they love the idea. So they can order it online, just by, I think you can type Charlie Calello.
By the way,
book, and I think
you know
it comes
offhand
up.
if Barbara Walters' father owned the Latin Quarters?
Yes, he did, Lou Walters.
Lou Walters.
Lou Walters.
Did you know Lou?
No, I didn't know him. In fact, I went to see them. I went to see the show, just so I could hear the arrangements. That was like a big deal to have New York musicians play your arrangements for the first time.
There's so much arrangements going on in the history of the Four Seasons. That's what everyone wants to hear tonight. But when you hear the songs, and these songs are played on the radio, is there any specific thing that goes through your mind when you hear one of those particular songs? You could share, for example, Ronnie from the Four Seasons that goes through your mind?
Well, first time I heard Ronnie, they wrote this song. Bob Crew and Bob Gaudio wrote this song after we did after Dawn. So Ronnie was going to be a follow-up to Dawn, and in my opinion, Ronnie is an exquisite composition. It's a marvelously structured song. It wasn't as big a hit as Dawn, but the song to me was always one of my favorites because musically it just was just a great melody.
Here it is, Ronnie on WPAT, MRBI International.